When life gives you lemons, make lemonade. And when life gives you a kind of disappointing codex supplement, you make lists. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another Glacial Geek video. I am Phil, the Glacial Geek, and today I'm coming to you, hopefully after I've removed most of the annoying salt that's in my system from this Dark Angel Codex. I know I was talking about like trying not to get upset about the thing and like move on and like this is what we have and this is what's happening. And the truth is that it's easier to say that than to feel it. And I've been kind of disappointed with the Codex supplement that we got for the Dark Angels, but I've been still looking at it. The models are super rad and just trying to figure out what I can do with this. What can I make out of this to be, to do what I want it to do, to be able to play the game, to compete and try to win the game. Because that's what when I make lists, that's what I kind of want to do. And especially if I want to make like a competitive list to bring to a tournament, to bring to an RTT or something like that. The idea that you want to make lists that are bad never really sat well with me. I understand not bringing like 3 of the most powerful thing and like trying to just like min-max your list to kind of go to like a friendly or to like a narrative thing, like trying to keep that under control. I understand that. Or taking units that aren't necessarily super great, but you really like them, they look cool, you did a good paint job or whatever it is, bringing them to the table, that's fine. But I never understood wanting to make a list that you wanted to lose. So with that in mind, I looked at the Codex supplement and I was like, what can I do? What can I use within this Codex to make it what I want it to do well, to allow me to compete, allow me to play, and allow me to have fun on the tabletop with my opponents who are also trying to play a tough game and play a hard game and try to win as well. So I looked at it and honestly, you know, I've said this many times, I'm really bad with bikes. So I kind of wasn't really looking at the Raven Wing detachment. The Unforgiven detachment, I mean, it was kind of disappointing from the get-go and they didn't change it, so I wasn't really considering that one. But the Inner Circle detachment to me spoke to me. I'm a Termy boy. I like Terminators. I like big chunky boys being able to do their big chunky things, and it spoke to me and I was like, all right, there's got to be something I can do with this, some way that I can turn this detachment into a success. And looking at it and going into it, I knew that it was going to take me to change my perspective on how I was going to play the game. Because all of 10th edition so far, I've done just the random objectives, so drawing from the deck and going with that and playing the game kind of similarly with whatever I was playing with. So and just kind of like depending upon the units. And I thought about what was going on with this list, and I thought about what was going on with this detachment. I thought about what was going on with this Codex, and I realized I had to try something different, and I was going to try something different. So when I made this list, I made this with an eye towards taking fixed secondaries. So going into a game, going into a battle and going, I am going to be taking these secondaries every turn, every game that I'm playing, and I'm just going to try to get my points from that, play the primary objective, and go from there. So that was the plan. That's what I was going into it with. That's what the mindset that I had going into it, and I knew that that's what I was going to try to do. So, and I knew that there was some play that you can get, like giving the Deathwing keyword to Hellblasters, giving giving just like the ability to play off of that and allow you to try to just like whale into certain objectives to really jump on those primaries. So what could we do to make a list that will supplement me allow me to get the secondaries that I need and still allow me to try to run into the battle and get myself the primaries that I need? Because I can't hold back, I can't sit back, I can't just depend upon just the secondaries. You need the primaries as well if you want to win. So with that in mind, I started to look at what we have that really works in this. And the thing that really spoke to me, obviously, is the 3-inch deep strike that you can get with the Deathwing units. So if you can deep strike within 3 inches, or just outside of 3 inches of your opponent, that's a really good thing, and it's very hard to screen out. And suddenly now having a 5-man Deathwing Knight squad would be beneficial to me, because it's even harder to screen out a smaller unit like that. That's why Inceptors have been super great. And that's why I've been taking them in my competitive Dark Angels list, because they're really good at dropping down and getting me what I need. So, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let me go over the list first, and then I will go over what my concept is for the secondaries and what I want them to each do about it. So right off the bat, looking at my HQs, you can kind of get an idea of what I'm doing here. Each of these 4 HQs were taken for a very specific purpose, and they're doing something very specific for me. So I have an Apothecary, I have Azrael, I have a Captain in Terminator armor, and I have a Chaplain with a jump pack. So the first idea that I have here is I need a unit that can just like put out assault, put out damage. And I want my Hellblasters, which I've always loved Hellblasters, as a Dark Angel with a plasma. Beautiful, beautiful unit for me personally. I've really, really enjoyed using them, and getting an opportunity to make them really good, this seems really great. So I'm gonna have a 10-man Hellblaster squad there with Azrael and with the Apothecary. So suddenly now this unit has a 4-up invul save. So the odds are of them being wiped out is pretty low. And I'm going to be bringing back a model each turn with the Apothecary. So if they're blowing themselves up because I'm supercharging, if they are going into battle and they're getting whinnied down by my opponent because they see what a threat they are, then I can bring some back with the Apothecary, keep them popping back. And to me, that suddenly means that that's an ongoing threat that my opponent is going to have to focus down to try to take out effectively, or hope that they're not going to be able to, and hope that they can take them down fast enough that they can stop the rest of my army from doing their thing. Azrael is there giving them sustained hits, so they're getting a lot more shots with their things. They now have the Deathwing keyword because of Azrael, which means that they're getting +1 to wound if they're shooting at a unit that's on my chosen objective that the inner circle allows me to do. So suddenly now they're a big threat against like most everything that's going to be on the table there, putting out an incredible amount of shots that are going to be wounding at +1. They're going to be bringing guys back. They're going to be an ongoing threat. They're not just going to be the glass cannon that they used to be. Azrael, of course, giving me my extra CP, which is super great, especially since I'm going to be wanting to use those later on. And it's allowing me to now do what I need to put out the damage that I want. So I think it's going to be a very effective unit to bully some weaker units. It's also going to put a hefty chunk into some like stronger, higher toughness units, just because of the amount of shots that you're getting, that +1 that you can get with it being Deathwing, and they're just going to keep coming back with that Apothecary. So that's like the core of my just like bully tactic. It's going to be a pressure list that's going to be trying to go up the board, keep you back, and just like take territory. I'm then going to have my Deathwing captain, my Terminator captain, is going to be with a 5-man Deathwing Knight squad. So the idea behind this is that he is basically just there to hold Deathwing Assault, which is the enhancement that allows them to come in first turn. So now that 5-man squad with that captain are going to pop down onto the table. They're going to choose one. They're going to drop down on the table behind enemy lines, 3 inches away from my opponent. And then they're going to have -1 damage against them with the 4 wounds and their 4-up invul save, the 2-up armor save, and they're going to be hard to knock off the board. So they can drop down there, they can do what I need them to do, and now they're back there behind enemy lines. If I want to take behind enemy lines, they can drop a teleport homer when they drop down there because they can't charge with the 3 inches and don't have shooting. So now all of a sudden they pop down, drop my teleport homer, I got my 4 points for the turn. Not much you're going to be able to do with that. And if you are screening out the entirety of your back line there, then great. That means that you're probably not going to be able to come forward and push pressure onto me for the rest of the table there on your first turn if you're going to hold back that far back there. So I'll take that trade-off there and kind of see the way things are going when I see what kind of list that people have. If they've got a whole lot of infantry, then maybe that's not the play that I go with. Maybe I go with engage on all fronts or something like that, where they still can drop down 3 inches away from you. They're going to be holding down there. They're going to be taking a lot to, they're going to have to be focused to really make them go away. And if you're focusing on them, you can't focus on the Hellblasters. So you got to choose one that you're going to want to focus, because that's how focus works. And if you're splitting it between the two, they're both going to live. They're both going to be a problem. Now, I also have 2 Deathwing Terminator squads. These are Deathwing. Deathwing Terminator squads. And the idea is that if I choose behind enemy lines, if I choose deploy teleport homers, what I can do is I can have the Deathwing Knight squad come in turn 1. I can have another Terminator squad come in turn 2 and have another Terminator squad come in turn 3. And all 3 turns, I've got one that's dropping 3 inches away because of that stratagem back in your back line, getting back there, putting down teleport homers, either getting behind enemy lines, doing what I want with those fixed objectives, and there's not much that you can do about it because they're just going to keep coming here. The extra points for giving them the Deathwing so they ignore any kind of modifiers, which is great. You know, I get the ignoring modifiers. I think for the 5 points was definitely worth it above the regular Terminator squad there. They can drop down there, and if I still have that first unit that dropped back there and they're still in a good position to deploy teleport homers or hold behind enemy lines, then suddenly now I have a lot more leeway that I can use these units and drop them into other places around the board to cause mayhem, to just push and cause pressure. And those units then are now going to be getting me those secondaries as well. But they're there primarily, the 3 I have there are primarily turn 1, turn 2, and turn 3 to drop down behind enemy lines, do something that I need them to do to get me those secondaries. I then have a 10-man Vanguard veteran squad. They've all got the Storm Shields, so they're going to have a 4-up invul save. They've got 4 attacks each, so that's 40 attacks going in there. Their attacks on the charge are lethal attacks. The Chaplain is going to give them +1 to wound. They have Deathwing, so that even if they're charging, if you precision out my Chaplain, they're still going to get the +1 to wound on my chosen target, but it gives me now the flexibility to use them to go and take a different objective than my chosen one. So I can choose the chosen one, have a lot of my Deathwing units going into there, maybe Hellblasters shooting someone off over there, and then take my Vanguard vets and jump them onto a different objective to try to take territory, hold territory, and push my opponent back and just keep the pressure on them as they're moving there. It also gives me the ability, since they have a 12-inch move, if I go first on turn 1 and I have engaged in all fronts, I put them up, I have them up on the line there, I advance them up, and suddenly now they're giving me I don't have to worry about necessarily having I have some flexibility with another unit that you will about to see, that I can actually have them and just have them advance up, get me that engage in all fronts over there, and allow me to do that with that. And the fact that they're Deathwing, it gives them a lot of the ability to like take advantage of the stratagems, take advantage of attacking onto my chosen objective there, so for the inner circle. And they're going to be in there with the Chaplain, with the jump pack, which allows them to pop off some mortal wounds as well when they get there into engagement range. So it's they're popping off mortal wounds, they can go into a different objective or a different unit on an objective and have them attack and still get the +1 to wound, getting the lethal wounds. I think they're a pretty good unit. I think they've got the ability to give me the flexibility, the movement, the maneuvering, and still the strength and staying power with that 4-up invul save from all of the Storm Shields to just like take it, hold what I need, and put out some offensive strength with those attacks. I also have a Lancer for obvious Lancer reasons. He's really good at taking down vehicles because, a lot of this is going to be really good against infantry and against vehicles. Having that Lancer to just take out the important things that are going to be offensive to my infantry units is really good. It's just really strong to be able to do all of that, and I think that it's I really like it, and I think it's really good in most Marine lists, and I don't see a reason not to take him in my Dark Angels list. I know he's not going to get the +1 to wound because he's not Deathwing, but he's still doing great things, and I don't think everything needs to be Deathwing in order to take advantage of that particular detachment rule. I also have a unit of Inceptors because sometimes it's nice to be able to drop 3 inches away just to give me the ability and the flexibility to try to do what I need to without having to depend upon CP to give me that 3-inch deep strike with those. They also have the ability, since there's only a 3-man squad of them, to allow them more flexibility to get in tighter spots in case my opponent is doing a better job of screening me out and keeping me away from what I need to get my secondary objectives. I also have an Infiltrator squad to give me the ability to keep my opponent from being able to deep strike within 12 inches if I want to keep him back in my line, to keep my opponent from being able to just like drop in behind me. Or I can use them to be up into a different table quarter if I want to go engage in all fronts just off the bat, so I can drop down on one and then hold the other one with the Infiltrator squad. They're also really good at being able to be close to the center in case I need to deploy teleport homers right there. They've got flexibility. They've got things I can do. I can either use them to infiltrate right off the bat to give me an easy, basically ensure that I get engaged in all fronts, or I can hold them back and hold my back line if that's what I want to do. Honestly, I'm going to have so much up in my opponent's grill with the way this like pressures and moves up that I'm not super concerned about my opponent coming behind me, because it's like, great, they can go back there. I don't have a lot of my secondaries are now going to be fixed, so I don't have to worry as much about that other than holding the home objective for primary points. But some of the primary missions don't even care about that home objective at all. So at that point, like, great, go for it. Go back there, do what you need to. I'm not too concerned. I'm just worried about pushing up, getting my primary points from the middle objectives, and then doing my secondaries around where I'm at. So I've got flexibility with that. That 12-inch bubble of no deep strike is super strong and super effective, and I think it's something that really adds an extra little kick of board control to this list that we're talking about. And last, maybe least, but last definitely, and not least, I think this is good. I have a 6-man squad of Blade Guard veterans because they've got the Deathwing rule, so they can just like chunk up the board. They've got their storm shields. They've got the invul saves. They've got the wounds. They've got the abilities to kind of really assault and take objectives and hold them. And to me, that ability to just move up there they're just super flexible to be able to do it. I also like them better than the Inner Circle companions. I don't have to worry about having a character to really make them shine, and they're cheaper, and they've got an invul save. So, at the end of the day, that's why they're there, and that's what's going to happen with them. So I've got them to kind of just be like another thing, especially early turns before my Terminators start coming in. That's another thing on the board, putting pressure, moving forward, that you have to really chonk through if you want to get through them. They're not going to fall over. They're going to take a bit to get through. And if you're focusing on them, you're not focusing on my Hellblasters, you're not focusing on my Deathwing Terminators, Deathwing Knights. And, at that point, great, take them down. They're an extra little punch that I have here, especially those early turns, to get some little bit more board presence. And that's my list. I think it's strong. I think it's good. I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to, do a test with it. I'm actually testing it tomorrow. Actually, if you're watching this when it came out, it's today. So I'll be sure to get back to you guys, let you know how it goes on the tabletop. But I think it's a way forward. And it's something to work with here, trying to wrap my head around secondaries, because at this point, this list really pairs well with deploying teleport homers, just dropping it in my opponent's deployment zone and dropping it down there for the 4 points. It's got the ability to chunk up and get in the middle if I can't get behind there. But the ongoing threat of just deep striking Terminators in small 5-man squads is going to be hard to screen out the entire game. And if they're going to screen out for 3 turns, their entire back line there, great, that means that they aren't coming forward and they're not scoring secondaries, they're not scoring primaries, they're stuck back there. I'll take that any day of the week, because that's going to get me the win as well. So I think deploy teleport homers is a good one. There's engage on all fronts that you can do because of the fact that we've got the ability to deep strike. We've got the infiltrate squad. We've got, the fast movers with the Vanguard veterans. And we've got the ability to just kind of like stick back and have units in all of the table. Because the idea of this list is board control and pressure, and just keep it on and just keep pushing forward and keep your opponent from being able to get forward. And if you can do that, you're going to be able to get those secondaries. You also have the potential of behind enemy lines. First turn, you're only going to get like the 1 unit there for the 3 points instead of the 5 points, or the 4 points because it's the ongoing one, not the other one. But at the same time, that's still not bad. You're dropping like what, 1 point from your potential gains for the entire game. And I think this list kind of sticks around. It takes a lot to hammer through, and there's enough punch power, enough shoot power in there that they're going to be winnowing down your opponent just as well as they would be trying to winnow you. And I think they'll be around for the long term to be able to get those secondaries. You also don't have to worry about the whims of the deck. If you're drawing like an impossible secondary objective on a turn, you don't have to worry about holding the back line, because you don't have to worry about you don't have to worry about holding your home objective if it's not getting you anything on primary. You also don't have to worry about things like investigate signals. You don't have to worry about like cleanse. You don't have to worry about any of those things. Those specific secondaries allow you to be aggressive. They allow you to be forceful. They allow you to push. They also take advantage of the fact that I get to choose an objective each turn and just like whale my opponent off of it and get that +1 to wound, which is super helpful. And being able to deep strike where I need to, 3 inches away, I think it's strong. I really think that this has the ability to get the points you need to win games against very strong lists. And at the end of the day, that's, to me, the sign of at least going in the right direction. If this is not the specific one, it might need some tweaks, might need some different things. Like I said, that Blade Guard Veteran Squad, I feel like there's play with it. I feel like there's need for it, but that could change if I see it not doing anything for me. And then you have some more points to kind of mess around with. But keeping those, basically you just have that cycle of the Terminators dropping in. You got the Vanguard Vets that are just shooting around the board. And you've got that Hellblaster squad just moving up and just being a nuisance and just like wailing things off of objectives. So to me, this feels like the lemonade from this lemon pile of a Codex supplement. And it feels, I feel, having come up with this list, it feels effective. It feels like it's got a way forward. And to me, it feels like it took care of my salt, because it took just like a complete change in the way I was thinking about Dark Angels list, a complete change in how I was going to be playing the game. But that's the same thing that happened once Azrael lost. Remember back in when 8th edition first dropped, and suddenly like all the lists were just Azrael sitting in the middle of like his parking lot, just giving up his 4-up invul save to a bunch of vehicles. And then all of a sudden that changed, and I was like blown out of the water, and I was like, what do I do here? And it just took you to reframe your mind and rechange the way things work. And that to me is fine. You know, I got the salt out, I took care of it, I threw the potato in, and it took it out, and now I've got that cleanse for my system, and I'm ready to go forward and really try to, you know, win one for the Emperor and win one for the Lion, even though the Lion's not going to be on the table because he's not great. So, a little disappointed that I can't make, that the original list here does not have any of the cool new models, unless I want to make up 5 Deathwing Knights, but I've already got 5 Deathwing Knights, and I got plenty of Deathwing Terminators, so, you know, the new models maybe aren't showing themselves up here in this list, but that's fine. Maybe they will come, maybe I'll see a reason to bring them in, maybe I'll change my mind about who's leading what, but that's kind of where I'm at with all that now, but it feels good. It feels like it's a solid place to start, at least, and a solid way to move forward with the Dark Angels into something that might be competitive. So, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Let me know what you think about this list. Let me know what you think about that strategy. Let me know what you think about like just changing the perspective and how that might change how you view how you make your lists. Because to me, that's what it feels like. It feels like it's a big change, a big like mind shift in order to make this Codex supplement do what I need it to do. And you know, that's not a bad thing. It's something that it took for me to really start to appreciate being able to use it the way I want, to be able to use it effectively. So let me know what you think. If you have some ideas, let me know down in the comments below, because I'm obviously still in the building phase, still in the workshop phase, trying to figure this out. So I hope you guys have all enjoyed this. I certainly have. I've been Phil, the Glacial Geek, as always. And until next time, stay safe and have fun.